Imagine a customer, deeply stressed out, waiting 15 minutes on hold just to get some complex mortgage assistance. We've all been trapped in that awful hold music
Ah,
purgatory.
absolutely. The worst.
Right. But now imagine that wait time just plummets from 15 minutes to exactly 2.3 minutes.
Wow.
And the entire interaction is handled completely autonomously. It's perfectly tailored to their specific financial situation. And this is the kicker, there are absolutely zero regulatory breaches.
Which, I mean, that sounds like vendor vaporware, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is this level of automation is actively happening right now
Mm.
across European enterprise networks.
Exactly. And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are exploring a really comprehensive piece of research from AetherLink. It's titled AI Agents and Multi-Agent Systems, Rotterdam's Enterprise Future.
Yeah, it's a great read.
It really is. And we want to unpack how European businesses, specifically the ones anchoring major operational hubs like Rotterdam, how they're moving way past the generative AI hype phase.
Right, they're not just playing with chatbots anymore.
No, not at all. They are building real, highly complex enterprise infrastructure for 2026 and beyond.
And, well, what's fascinating here is that for the European business leaders or the CTOs or developers who are tuning into this,
Yeah.
this isn't some, theoretical roadmap discussion for 2030.
Yeah.
It's a right now priority.
Mhm.
Like the International Data Corporation forecasts that 45% of organizations globally will be orchestrating multi-agent systems by the end of the decade.
45%.
Yeah, that represents a 28% compound annual growth rate.
Yeah.
And in the European banking sector alone, we are seeing over $2.5 billion saved annually.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B, yeah. Just by resolving routine inquiries through conversational AI agents. So we're experiencing this massive operational shift from reactive customer service to proactive autonomous enterprise workflows.
Okay, let's unpack this because you and I both know the audience listening to this is already well aware of the limitations of standard large language models.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we don't need to retread how frustrating it is when a single basic chatbot gets confused by a multi-part prompt or hallucinates a policy.
Right.
The delta we really need to explore is between those standalone wrapper bots and true multi-agent systems, or MAS.
And that's the core distinction. I mean, a single large language model, no matter how robust the underlying training data is, it still fundamentally operates sequentially.
Right.
It reads your prompt, it generates a response, and perhaps it retrieves a document if it's been granted a basic tool. But an AI agent in multi-agent ecosystem, that's an autonomous software entity with distinct operational parameters.
Okay.
It perceives its environment, reasons through complex scenarios using specific logic frameworks, and it executes actions across your APIs without a human having to trigger every single step.
Yeah.
And crucially, it maintains memory and state across long-running operations.
The way I kind of conceptualize it is it's like moving away from the stressed out chef metaphor.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so a standalone bot is like one highly stressed chef trying to cook a 5-course meal entirely alone. Chopping onions, searing steak, answering the phone all sequentially.
And naturally, things drop.
Exactly. But a multi-agent system isn't just hiring more chefs, it's installing a shared digital nervous system in a Michelin star kitchen. So the exact millisecond the sous chef finishes prepping the ingredients, the sauce chef's station automatically fires up to the perfect temperature.
A shared nervous system is exactly how these agents operate in practice. The AetherLink research actually points to a Rotterdam logistics enterprise doing exactly this with their global shipping architecture.
Great.
Yeah, they took this massive, tangled supply chain workflow and decomposed it into highly specialized parallel agentic tasks.
So instead of one monolithic system, timing out because it's trying to parse a dense 50-page customs declaration while simultaneously pinging the warehouse database.
They divide and conquer. They split the workload across specialized nodes. So you have a document processing agent whose sole universe is extracting structured shipment details from unstructured customs invoices.
Okay, so that's agent one.
Right. And while that agent is actively working, it streams data instantly to a compliance verification agent, which is cross-referencing those extracted details against constantly updating EU import regulations.
At the exact same time.
Exactly. And concurrently, a resource optimization agent is analyzing real-time warehouse capacity and routing metrics, while a customer communication agent is pre-drafting a delay notification just in case a bottleneck is detected.
And because these four agents are running concurrently, like sharing state in real time through platforms like Aetherbot, the processing speed just plummets.
Oh, yeah.
The research states this parallelization cuts processing time by 60 to 75%. It's
Yeah.
basically solving a complex puzzle by having four different processors work on different corners at the exact same time.
Right. Concurrent reasoning rather than sequential logic. And they're identifying process bottlenecks on the fly, suggesting routing improvements in milliseconds. Traditional robotic process automation, the stuff that relies on rigid screen scraping and fixed rules, it simply cannot handle that level of dynamic reasoning.
But okay, if the speed and efficiency are that incredible, the obvious elephant in the room is why every enterprise in Europe isn't just flipping the switch on this tomorrow morning.
Well,
Because the moment you let an autonomous system make a supply chain routing decision or like a financial assessment, you instantly trigger the heavy oversight of the EU AI Act.
right. The regulatory landscape completely changes the operational math here. The EU AI Act compliance timeline really hits hard as we move toward 2026.
Yeah.
It explicitly classifies enterprise decision support systems and customer-facing agents as high-risk applications.
Which, if you are an engineering team listening to this, sounds like a deployment nightmare.
Well, for sure.
You're trying to build this incredibly fast, concurrent, multi-agent architecture, and suddenly legal requires mandatory risk assessments, deep bias and fairness audits, transparency docs, and guaranteed human oversight protocols.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It feels like bureaucratic red tape just acting as a brick wall against innovation velocity.
And that is the assumption most engineering teams start with. And honestly, if you use legacy deployment strategies, you'll hit that wall.
Okay.
But this is where the concept of AI lead architecture becomes critical.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, the old way of building software was to develop the product as fast as possible and then try to bolt a compliance and security layer on top right before launch.
Right, the afterthought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you attempt that with an autonomous multi-agent ecosystem, you fail. The regulatory requirements are simply too deep to retrofit.
So the alternative isn't just hard coding a bunch of like if-then guardrails into the system prompt to keep the legal team happy. You have to build it into the actual plumbing.
It's much deeper than prompt engineering. AI lead architecture embeds compliance into the foundational data pathways using development suites like AetherDVV.
Ah.
For example, the EU AI Act requires interpretable reasoning chains. Regulators need to know exactly why an agent denied a loan or rerouted a shipment.
Makes sense.
So in an AI lead architecture, every single agent action automatically generates an immutable cryptographic decision log. The guardrails aren't just text instructions. They are physical constraints on the APIs the agent is allowed to call, dynamically adjusting based on the risk tier of the data it's handling.
So you're building the logging mechanisms and the permission scopes natively into the agent's environment from day one.
And by doing that, you actually accelerate your long-term deployment cycles.
Yeah.
You create a massive competitive moat because your dev team isn't constantly rewriting core code to satisfy compliance audits. You're guaranteeing that your system won't have to be ripped down to the studs when the regulators come knocking in 2026. You establish enterprise trust at the architectural level, which allows you to scale faster than competitors who are still trying to bolt compliance onto legacy bots.
So to see how that architectural trust actually plays out in a highly regulated environment, the sources detail a case study of a major Dutch retail bank operating across the Amsterdam and Rotterdam region.
Yeah, this is a great example.
Their baseline situation was honestly a completely broken workflow. Resolution rates for complex customer inquiries, things like mortgage adjustments and wealth management advice, had completely flatlined at 65%.
And customers were waiting those 15 minutes we talked about earlier just to get a human specialist on the line.
Right.
Plus, the manual compliance reviews required for every financial product recommendation were just creating a massive bottleneck for the bank's operations.
Right, because previously, a human service rep had to manually log into 3 different legacy databases to verify income, check the specific mortgage product rules, and then ensure the advice met regional compliance standards.
Which takes forever.
It took 15 minutes because human beings cannot query 3 disparate databases concurrently. So the bank deployed a highly structured 5-agent architecture to fix the pipeline.
And the division of labor here is what really drives the outcomes. It starts with the intake agent. So the moment a customer initiates contact, this agent analyzes the natural language, classifies the complex intent, and routes it.
So it's basically intelligent triage.
Exactly. It doesn't attempt to solve the financial problem itself.
Right, so it immediately passes the context to the product knowledge agent, which dives into the bank's approved mortgage and investment documentation. But while that is happening, and this is that concurrent reasoning mechanism in action, an eligibility assessment agent is silently querying the customer's secure financial data against the bank's strict loan qualification criteria.
And this brings us right back to the AI lead architecture.
Right.
Because the fourth agent in this ecosystem is solely dedicated to regulatory compliance. Its entire function is to monitor the outputs of the other agents in real time and ensure every single recommendation adheres strictly to MiFID II, the European Financial Markets Framework, as well as GDPR privacy rules.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if the product agent suggests an investment vehicle that violates a MiFID II risk profile for that specific customer, the compliance agent blocks it in milliseconds before it ever reaches the user interface.
And the fifth piece of this puzzle is the escalation agent. It basically sits above the entire interaction, monitoring sentiment and complexity.
Right.
And if the case requires highly nuanced human judgment, it steps in. But it doesn't just blindly transfer a frustrated customer to a human advisor who then has to ask, how can I help you today?
The worst question.
Right. Instead, it instantly compiles a synthesized brief of the entire multi-agent interaction, the customer's exact intent, and the verified eligibility data, and hands a clean, actionable package to the human.
And the causality of that specific agentic workflow is exactly why they saw such massive gains. They took that flatline 65% resolution rate and increased it to 82% of inquiries resolved without ever needing human escalation.
And because the agents are querying those legacy databases simultaneously, that 15-minute wait time dropped to 2.3 minutes on average.
Incredible.
The bank saved 3.2 million euros annually, purely through operational efficiency and reduced call center load. Their Net Promoter Score, which is a major indicator of customer satisfaction, jumped from 42 to 58.
But you know the metric that truly matters for 2026.
What's that?
100% audit trail compliance. They had zero regulatory findings in their EU AI Act free audits.
Wow.
They proved that if you structure the deployment correctly, you can deliver undeniable business value while flawlessly navigating heavy regulatory complexity.
Here's where it gets incredibly interesting, though. Everything we just talked about with the retail bank is fundamentally about solving an existing problem faster. A customer realizes they have an issue with their mortgage, they reach out, and the system handles it brilliantly. But the ultimate enterprise value, the real holy grail of multi-agent systems, lies in solving problems before the customer is even aware they exist.
The operational shift from reactive to proactive engagement.
Exactly.
A traditional customer service model is entirely dependent on friction.
Right.
Now, you have to wait for the customer to get frustrated enough to initiate contact.
Yeah.
Multi-agent systems invert that model entirely by anticipating the friction point.
But when we talk about proactive engagement, my mind immediately goes to spam. It sounds like the system is just going to blast generic retention emails based on a customer's age demographic.
Well, that is the legacy marketing automation approach, sure.
Yeah.
But multi-agent systems are far more precise. In finance, agents constantly analyze behavioral data, transaction cadence, product utilization, and if they detect a nuanced pattern strongly correlated with a customer moving their assets to a competitor, the agent proactively initiates outreach with a highly personalized retention incentive tailored to their specific financial goals.
Or consider an industrial setting in a port city like Rotterdam. You have IoT-connected agents continuously monitoring real-time telemetry from automated manufacturing equipment.
Exactly. So they identify a micro-vibration in a robotic arm bearing that indicates a future failure.
Before it even breaks.
Right. So instead of waiting for the red light to flash on the factory floor, the agent automatically orders the replacement part from the supply chain and schedules a maintenance technician for a planned downtime window.
So the system prevents the catastrophic breakdown entirely. It's essentially telling the floor manager, hey, I noticed this anomaly, I've procured the necessary part, and the fix is already scheduled for Tuesday when the line is idle.
Yeah, and enterprises are executing workflows like this increasingly through voice. The AetherLink research focuses heavily on multimodal AI integration, which basically means systems that blend voice, vision, text, and action natively.
Right.
Between 2024 and 2026, we have actually seen a 62% increase in adoption rates for multimodal systems in complex customer service environments.
So we are moving way past the rigid, frustrating phone tree where you have to press 4 for customer service.
Well, thankfully, yeah.
The modern large language models powering these voice agents achieve near human latency. They process natural language in real time, understanding pauses, interruptions, and complex contextual shifts.
They can actually analyze acoustic sentiment and adopt an empathetic tone, too, like adjusting their conversational pacing based on the user's detected stress level.
Which represents a massive accessibility upgrade. I mean, if you are an elderly customer or someone with a visual impairment, navigating a dense banking app interface or typing out a multi-layered issue to a text bot is full of friction. Speaking naturally to a voice agent that instantly understands your context, securely accesses your profile, and resolves the issue verbally, that fundamentally changes the relationship you have with that enterprise.
It creates a totally seamless interface.
Huh.
But if you are a CTO looking at this fully autonomous, proactive, voice-enabled endpoint, it likely induces a bit of architectural anxiety.
Oh, I bet.
Because if you just let different departments start spinning up their own bespoke agents to solve their localized problems, you're going to create an absolute nightmare of technical debt.
Right, the whole Wild West deployment strategy. The marketing team buys one agent vendor, the logistics team builds an open source agent, none of them share a unified beta layer, and the compliance team is completely blind to what's happening.
Exactly.
I'm assuming there is a maturity curve to prevent this, because you don't just jump from a single buggy chatbot to a global multi-agent network overnight.
You don't. And to prevent that technical debt, organizations have to adopt an AI factory framework, often utilizing strategic models like EtherMind. An AI factory is essentially an organizational operating model that standardizes exactly how AI is developed, governed, tested, and deployed across the entire enterprise. The research defines 5 distinct stages of maturity on this curve.
So what does that progression actually look like under the hood?
Well, level 1 is the initial stage, which is where many companies are unfortunately stuck right now.
Well,
It consists of ad hoc AI experiments, siloed generative AI use cases, and very little centralized governance.
got it.
Then level 2 introduces basic managed processes and early return on investment tracking. But the true enterprise value unlocks at level 3, which is standardized. This is where you implement reusable agent components and unified platforms across different business functions.
And the goal for serious enterprises heading into 2026 is to push into level 4, which is optimized.
Right.
This implies continuous learning loops and full multi-agent orchestration. But to build that, I mean, the agents are only as smart as the infrastructure they're deployed on. You cannot plug a highly sophisticated reasoning agent into a messy, unstructured legacy database and expect good results.
No, you really can't. Data infrastructure is the critical bottleneck for level 4 maturity. You need meticulously labeled data sets, real-time data access pipelines, and a highly robust API ecosystem so these agents can securely execute actions like updating a ledger or modifying a shipping manifest within your core systems.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly for the CTOs listening, you need observability platforms.
Let's pause on that, because if you're an engineering leader, observability is the part that keeps you up at night. You deploy a brilliant multi-agent system, and 3 months later, it starts hallucinating free money to retail customers or giving non-compliant legal advice.
Yeah, that's the nightmare scenario.
How does an observability platform actually prevent that?
It tackles a phenomenon known as agent drift.
Agent drift.
Yeah. So as an AI model interacts with users, processes novel data, and updates its context window over time, its behavioral outputs can subtly shift away from its original parameters.
Okay.
In a highly regulated European market, agent drift is a catastrophic risk. Observability platforms provide continuous, real-time tracking of the agent's internal reasoning pathways. They monitor those cryptographic decision logs we talked about earlier.
Oh, tying it back.
Right.
Oh.
Exactly. If a compliance agent starts drifting toward non-compliant behavior, the observability platform flags the statistical anomaly and instantly triggers a human review before the agent is allowed to execute any external action.
Which makes it completely clear why this is not an overnight digital transformation. The AetherLink research notes that organizations should expect a 12 to 18-month runway to reach full AI factory maturity and truly optimize their multi-agent ROI.
At least.
It takes significant time to clean the foundational data infrastructure, establish the secure API connections, and honestly, culturally shift the organization from human-centric to AI-augmented workflows.
It requires incredibly deliberate investment. You have to commit to AI lead architecture at the executive level and often partner with specialists who deeply understand both the technical deployment and the EU regulatory environment. You simply cannot retrofit this level of enterprise maturity onto a broken IT foundation.
So, what does this all mean? We have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the autonomous logistics hubs of Rotterdam to the retail banking architecture of Amsterdam, navigating the complexities of the EU AI Act and the AI factory model along the way.
It's a lot.
It is. If you're listening to this right now and building your enterprise tech strategy for 2026, what is the ultimate takeaway? For me, it comes back to the sheer mechanics of workflow processing.
Yeah.
The fact that specialized agents decomposing complex tasks can drop processing time by 60 to 75% compared to monolithic systems is a total paradigm shift. Your operational velocity is no longer constrained by sequential human logic or legacy software limits.
Yeah.
You can securely execute 5 parallel business processes at the exact same time, flawlessly.
And that speed unlocks completely new operational models.
Exactly.
For my core takeaway, I look at the regulatory strategy. Treating EU AI Act compliance as a foundational feature rather than a bureaucratic bug is what defines a successful long-term deployment.
Yeah, shifting that mindset.
Early adoption of strict governance frameworks and AI-lead architecture separates scalable enterprise value from unmanageable, high-risk technical debt. If you architect for the regulations from day one, they become the bedrock of your enterprise trust, not a roadblock to your innovation.
Compliance as a literal competitive advantage.
Exactly. And, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises a really fascinating question about the absolute endpoint of this technology.
Okay.
We discussed level 4 maturity today, but level 5 on that curve is fully autonomous, self-managing, multi-agent ecosystems.
Right.
Consider the long-term implications for business-to-business commerce. What happens to the global supply chain when your company's AI logistics agents start proactively negotiating pricing contracts, purchasing raw materials, and resolving complex shipping disputes directly with your vendor's AI agents?
Oh, wow.
Entirely machine-to-machine, executing complex negotiations in milliseconds.
Wow. We aren't just taking a 15-minute customer wait time down to 2 minutes anymore. We are entirely removing the human concept of waiting from the equation. It's a perfectly synchronized global nervous system where autonomous agents are coordinating commerce across continents instantly.
A frontier that is arriving much faster than most anticipated.
It truly is. We are moving out of the artificial intelligence hype cycle and into a reality of measurable, proactive enterprise value. For more AI insights, visit AetherLink.ai.